Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. I'm Matt Atchity. This is Christy Lemire. We are here to talk about the ninth life of Louis Drax.
He's like a cat. He gets lots of lives. So it is this kind of, it's a weird combination of stuff. It's like a Hitchcockian thriller mixed with magical realism. And that might not sound like it works on paper, and it does and it doesn't. It's September. It's mixed and mediocre. So this little boy named Louis Drax is the amazing accident-prone boy, and terrible things have been happening to him his entire young life, like a chandelier falling on him in his crib, or him sticking his fork in an electrical socket, and he keeps living. But the thing that might finally do him in is a fall from a very, very steep cliff while he was on a picnic with his mother and father, played by Sarah Gadon and Aaron Paul. And he's in a coma. So the entirety of the film takes place while he's in a coma, in flashbacks, while this famed neurologist, played by a frighteningly clothed Jamie Dornan, he's got way too much clothing on. And he tries to get through to him with the help of Oliver Platt, who is this little boy's therapist. And there's a sea monster. Take a look.
The patient's name is Louis Drax, 9 years old. He fell off one of the cliffs at Land's End.
He was dead for 2 hours. I've never seen anything like it. He's in a coma. But he's alive.
This is a really weird hodgepodge of stuff, and I really admire the ambition. It's based on a novel, which I have not read, and I'm thinking that probably a lot of this fantastical stuff works better in your imagination on the page versus...
I kind of want to read the book.
Right, versus seeing it like there's a sea monster, and like you get dribbles and drabbles of what it looks like, and then eventually you see full frontal sea monster, and I don't know if that maybe works better in a book where you're imagining seaweed and the barnacles and crap. I don't know. It's a tough jumble of tonal stuff, right?
Right.
It's darkly funny, and it's also kind of poignant.
Right.
And it's also a mystery, and it's also a lot of things.
You know,
it's a domestic drama.
And we complain a lot about a movie shifting tone, and a lot of times that doesn't work. And this is a movie that purposely shifts tone in a way that works really well. It starts out, you know, the way it's shot and the way, you know, it's done very humorously, like Louis is narrating, and, you know, and that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. This one, he's talking about how he's had these crazy accidents, and the music's, you know, a little peppy, and it feels
tinkly, mystical, happy
music. This music would fit into, you know, this music would fit into Alexander and the Terrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, right? It would fit into that kind of kids movie early on, and the narration is like, oh, look at this, you know. I mean, yes, it's dangerous, but it's like, oh yeah, it plays it for laughs, and that kind of works. And then as you go along farther, like you start to see this tone behind it. You start to pull apart, like, oh, wait a minute, this is for real. Like, oh, and as you go farther along in this movie, it gets more and more horrific, and that's tough to pull off. And I think this movie does that. There's a lot of Hitchcock in this. And especially like a lot of Vertigo, right? I mean, it's
what she looks like, where it takes place.
Right, in San Francisco. There's a lot of this Hitchcock vibe, and Jamie Dornan's character is this kind of like man that he's caught up in things that he may not quite understand. The thing, and if there's one particular element of this movie that I felt really took away with what they were doing. I didn't have a problem with the magic realism of it until one particular scene, and it felt like it came in out of a different movie, and it really bothered me.
You can tell me about it later.
I will tell you about it later.
Do.
Well, we talked about it after the screening, but there's one particular, and it happens between, you know, it's one of the later scenes between Jamie Dornan and Oliver Platt. Kind of the pivotal scene of the movie in the hospital. The way that played out and the way that was written really bothered me. Like just the way, how that affected the plot. I had a big problem with. Other than that, I really enjoyed this movie, but it's got this, what I found to be an almost unforgivable flaw. Now, some people will watch it and they'll be fine with it. But to me, I thought you had this otherwise interesting movie that is really playing with point of view. And
it keeps tricking you.
And
as to what's true and what's not.
You have a somewhat, I don't know that I would completely call him an unreliable narrator, but you've got this kid that this movie is telling a story through the eyes of a kid, and the kid doesn't see the whole story. And it's this really interesting exercise.
Which makes him unreliable.
Which makes him unreliable, but it's not that he's not intentionally withholding things from the audience. It's that he doesn't understand. And I thought that was real interesting, right? And that's a hard thing to pull off. Within that story, there's an element to it that doesn't fit in this, because I think otherwise you could have this really grounded story. So
I did not hate that scene as much as you did, now that I know what you're talking about. I think the kid in it is really good, and the balance he strikes is tough, and that helps ground this, because he's got this like perky, sardonic thing going. He can laugh at himself, but he's clearly brilliant, but he's also troubled, and he does not know the full story. And there's also like a sweetness to him, and he's misunderstood, and he's sort of an outcast, because he's just this weird kid, as everybody else thinks. The relationship between him and Aaron Paul as his father is really lovely and really grounds what is quite often a fantastical and tonally mixed jumble of stuff.
I will say, as much as I had the problem with the scene I talked about, there's a scene between Aaron Paul and this kid that had me near tears.
Yeah, Aiden Longworth is his name. Yeah. He's really good.
That really had me near tears. Yeah, and part of that is it's the idea of this father-son relationship that hit me really hard. But it's, Aaron Paul's great. He's continuing to impress me. We're so used to seeing him as Jesse, and he's so good in this. And he plays this role where you originally think of him one way, and then you start to, as the mystery unfolds, you get a different read on his character, and he doesn't tip it that well, or he doesn't make it obvious. There's a lot of subtlety here, and I really liked it.
Yeah. And yet your number is a very mixed number.
My number's a very mixed number because that flaw in the storyline really took away. So I'm giving it a 5.5.
I'm saying 5.8. I love the way it's shot. I admire the ambition of it. Alexandra Aja did High Tension, did The Hills Have Eyes remake, did Piranha 3D.
Right.
So he's been more of like a straight up horror director for a long time, and then he did Horns with Daniel Radcliffe a couple years ago, which I liked for a while too. But it's again like that is also a movie with some tricky tonal shifts, and so I admire that he tries to take on this really complicated material. It's always visually quite striking.
Horns I think has some of the same issues. Horns has this weird. I think the plot doesn't completely different. So I kind of want to see this director find something that the plot really is served by his ability to shift tone, because he's got that one of the hardest parts of it down. It's that he's got to find the right script.
Yeah, so 5.8, 5.5, our average is a 5.7, and it is where?
It's in the 40s on the tomato meter right now.
Mid-40s. Yeah. It's a mediocre week.